At 56 years old, Sophia Matthews had spent her entire adult life in the same two-story house in Maple Hill, Oregon. A home that, over time, became more of a cage than a comfort. She was the quiet type, the kind of woman who knew every creaky floorboard and never complained when the sink leaked or when someone forgot to take out the trash. For 3 decades, Sophia cooked, cleaned, and cared for her husband Henry, their son Mason, and Henry's aging mother Eleanor, without a single thank you that ever felt sincere. The night before Thanksgiving, she found herself elbow-deep in pie dough by 6 a.m., preparing a 16-course meal requested, no, demanded by Eleanor, who insisted on entertaining out-of-town relatives in style. Honey-glazed ham, roasted turkey, truffle mashed potatoes, homemade cranberry sauce. Sophia made every dish by hand, her back screaming, feet aching, and heart numb. No one offered to help. No one even noticed the sweat on her brow. When Eleanor wandered into the kitchen mid-morning and coldly asked for warm lemon water with honey, without even acknowledging the chaos around her, something cracked deep inside Sophia. It was small, subtle, but irreversible. Sophia didn't stop kneading the dough when Eleanor made her snide demand. Her hands moved on autopilot, powdered with flour and aching from hours of relentless prep. Without glancing up, she said, "The honey's in the basket under the sink. You can grab it." Her tone was flat, not rude, just empty. But Eleanor gasped like she'd been slapped. "You know my back is bad," she snapped, clutching her tea mug like it was a microphone. "And you still expect me to bend down? How inconsiderate can you be?" Sophia's lips twitched, a bitter edge creeping into her voice. "Then maybe skip the honey. Wouldn't want you to throw your back out." The mug shattered against the sink a second later, shards flying like shrapnel. The loud crack echoed through the house. That was it. That sound, ceramic exploding like her patience, was the final straw. Henry and Mason burst in from the living room. For a moment, Sophia hoped they might ask if she was okay. Just one word, one question, 1 ounce of compassion. But no. "What the hell, Sophia?" Henry growled, glaring at the sink. "She's your elderly mother-in-law. You're making her bend over like a servant?" Mason didn't even look up from his phone. "Seriously, Mom," he muttered. "You're so dramatic. Grandma's old. You were right there. Why couldn't you just help?" Then came the part that gutted her. "You make everything feel like a soap opera," Mason continued, voice dripping in disdain. "Aunt Bella works full-time, raises twins, and still manages to look like she has her life together. Meanwhile, you walk around like the world owes you something. Look at you, always tired, always complaining. No wonder no one wants to be around you." Sophia didn't cry. Not yet. Her hands were still caked in flour, her back still screamed, and her brand new apron, the only nice thing she'd bought herself in months, was suddenly flung to the floor by her own son so Eleanor could step over a puddle of juice. Not one of them looked at her. Not truly. Henry threw in the final jab, voice low and disgusted. "You really should take a good look at yourself. You're ruining the holiday." Ruining the holiday. She was crouched on the floor, bleeding fingers picking up broken porcelain, knees soaked in raw poultry juices. Yet she was the problem. Sophia froze, her breath stuck in her throat. Through blurry eyes, she caught her reflection in the oven's glass door, hair in wet clumps, grease streaked across her cheeks, eyes haunted. She didn't look like a woman anymore. She looked like a ghost who had finally had enough. Sophia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood, slowly, deliberately, wiping her flour-covered hands on the edge of her apron before tearing it off and tossing it onto the counter like shedding dead skin. Her gaze swept across the kitchen, piles of dishes, pots boiling over, half-prepped vegetables wilting on the counter. The smell of rosemary and desperation clung to the air. Then she moved, like a woman possessed. She grabbed the massive casserole dish she'd spent 3 hours perfecting, baked truffle potatoes with Gruyere and herbs, and smashed it onto the floor. The ceramic cracked with a thunderous boom, splattering cream and potatoes across the tile. Henry jumped back. Eleanor gasped. Mason finally looked up from his phone, eyes wide. "I'm done," Sophia said, voice quiet but sharp enough to slice steel. No one moved. "I cooked your meal. I cleaned your mess. I folded your socks. I listened to your complaints. But today I walked through hell in this kitchen for people who don't even think I deserve a seat at the table." She stormed into the bedroom, dragging 2 worn-out suitcases from under the bed. One was already half-packed, like a soldier preparing for war she always knew would come. Inside was her life in fragments: a few worn sweaters, boots, a tin of balm for her aching hands, and an old flip phone. At the bottom, wrapped in a faded dish towel, was $1,460 in cash, saved over years from the small quilt orders she stitched in secret. A quiet rebellion tucked beneath floorboards and behind baking pans. She opened the closet. Grays, blacks, charcoals. All color had been drained from her wardrobe long ago, along with her joy. She found one dress hidden deep in the back, bright purple. The last bold thing she ever bought for herself, worn only once to a church potluck where her sister-in-law Bella wore the same color. Sophia's had fit better, but Henry had been livid. "You're in your 40s, he'd hissed, trying to compete with her? Grow up." That night she folded the dress and buried it behind sweaters. That was years ago. Now she took it out again, held it close. Sophia marched into the kitchen and opened the fridge. She took everything: the turkey, the ham, the lobster, the herbs, the cheese, the truffles. If it wasn't nailed down, it went into her empty suitcase. All food she'd paid for, prepared, and been denied the dignity of enjoying. By the time Henry returned from his phone call, a cooler of expensive seafood in his arms, she was standing near the front door, coat zipped, suitcases packed. He barked, "Those are Australian crabs. I want them steamed. Get moving." Sophia didn't flinch. "That dinner? You won't be having it." His eyes narrowed. "What the hell are you saying?" "I'm not your cook," she said, voice like ice. "I quit." Then she swept a stack of fine china off the table. Plates exploded, crabs skittered across the floor. And for the first time in 30 years, everyone in the house went silent. Sophia stood at the doorway, chest heaving, suitcases in hand, while Henry bled from a cut on his palm, shocked more by her defiance than the pain. Behind him, Eleanor screeched about the wasted dinner. Mason stared, slack-jawed, as though the woman who just shattered their crab feast couldn't possibly be the same woman who used to slip him snacks during study sessions. But Sophia wasn't the same, and she knew it. "I don't want to live here anymore," she said flatly, each word slicing the air. "Not for one more second." She turned, walked toward the door. Someone knocked over a glass behind her. A chair scraped, but no one stopped her. She opened the door into the cold gray of a drizzling November afternoon and stepped into her next chapter. Rain stung her cheeks, but she didn't pull up her hood. Her hands gripped the suitcase handles tighter as she trudged down the porch stairs and into the street. Her feet splashed through puddles, her coat soaked, her soul finally free. She'd made it 2 blocks when something smacked the pavement ahead. Mud sprang up her legs. A photo, framed. She recognized it instantly, the only professional photo she and Henry ever had taken, back when their smiles still looked real. It had been hidden for years in the back of a drawer. Henry had always known it meant something to her. Every time they fought, he'd pull it out and drop it to the floor, his silent threat, a reminder of how easily he could discard what she valued. Sophia stared as the photo dissolved in the puddle, ink bleeding, edges curling. She didn't flinch. That picture had already been a lie, just like their marriage. She kept walking. By the time she reached the main road, she felt weightless, like she'd left more than her house behind. She'd left a version of herself that had been dying quietly for decades, the woman who lived in silent obedience, who apologized for existing, who begged for scraps of appreciation. That woman was gone. As the rain fell harder, headlights pierced the mist. A yellow cab rolled to a stop, wipers squeaking against the windshield. Sophia's pulse slowed. She opened the door, ready to start over. But then she saw who was in the back seat. Linda Weston, Henry's ex-girlfriend from college, her coat crisp, makeup flawless, boots spotless despite the storm. Linda stepped out, eyeing Sophia's rain-drenched coat and mud-splashed shoes. Well, well, towing suitcases on Thanksgiving? Moving out? Her voice dripped with polished mockery. Sophia met her gaze, calm, steady. Yes, and for once not apologizing for it. Linda blinked, thrown off, but Sophia wasn't done. You think I can't survive without Henry? Watch me. She climbed into the cab. The door closed with a soft click. Final, firm, irreversible. Outside, Linda stared, lips twitching in disbelief. But Sophia didn't look back. She was done shrinking, done waiting. This time she was driving her own life forward. The taxi weaved through city streets slick with rain, its warm heater humming softly. Sophia sat in the back, dripping wet, heart pounding not from fear, but freedom. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Just moved? He asked kindly. She nodded. No backstory, no explanations, just a new beginning. They stopped in front of a modest brick apartment on the city's edge. A porch light flickered above the door. Sophia stepped out, both suitcases trailing behind her, like shadows of an old life. She climbed the stairs and knocked. Grace Allen opened the door, still wearing a skeleton print apron and holding a wooden spoon. Her jaw dropped when she saw Sophia. 3 seconds passed. Then Grace pulled her inside without a word, wrapped a towel around her shoulders, and said with a soft laugh, I knew this day would come. I'm just glad you made it. That night, over a steaming bowl of vegetable stew, Sophia told Grace everything. The decades of silence, the exhaustion, the loneliness. Grace didn't interrupt, didn't offer cliches. She just listened. When Sophia finished, Grace reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. You should have left a long time ago, she said, but I'm proud you finally did. It's not too late. The next morning, Grace brought her to the Maple Haven Senior Care Center, where she worked part-time. We've got an opening for a companion caregiver, she explained. No license needed, just training, mostly conversation, light chores. You'd be perfect. Sophia hesitated. I can't even work a smartphone. How can I take care of strangers? Grace smirked. You've taken care of ungrateful people for 30 years. This will be a vacation. Sophia took the job, nervously, tentatively. On her first day, an elderly woman with clouded eyes clutched Sophia's hand and whispered, "You remind me of my little sister. She passed away long ago." The woman wouldn't let go. In that fragile moment, Sophia realized her kindness, her patience, her attention to the smallest details were more than chores. They were gifts, skills born of survival, now becoming strength. Each day she worked, her confidence grew. She began unpacking a box she hadn't touched in years, full of fabric scraps, patchwork purses, quilted pillow covers she'd stitched during long nights at home. Grace's eyes lit up. "These are beautiful. You've been hiding this?" Sophia smiled sheepishly. "I never had time. There was always something at home that needed me more." Grace pulled out her laptop. "Let's change that. Etsy's calling." Together they set up a shop. Sophia posted 3 handmade coin purses that night. She didn't expect anything. But the next morning, her phone dinged. One order. She stared at the screen, eyes wide, chest full. Not just a sale, a signal. For the first time in her life, Sophia Matthews had earned something entirely on her own, and it felt like the sunrise. Sophia's days quickly found a gentle rhythm. Morning started with quiet tea by the window of Grace's cozy apartment, sunlight warming her face through pale curtains she'd helped stitch herself. Then came work at the senior center, greeting residents with warm smiles, helping serve meals, reading to those with fading vision, or simply sitting beside them during the lonely hours. Every thank you hit deeper than anyone could know. It wasn't about being praised. It was about being seen. And every evening, Sophia came home to the hum of possibility. Orders on her Etsy shop trickled in, first slowly, then with surprising momentum. People left comments like, "Beautifully stitched," and "The love shows in every thread." She reread them at night like love letters to a version of herself she'd buried long ago. Grace helped her track expenses, set prices, even handle shipping. On Saturdays, they shared a table at the weekend artisan market. Sophia displayed her quilted coin purses, placemats, and soft pillow covers in soft amber tones. Customers browsed, complimented her designs, and placed custom orders for weddings, baby gifts, and holidays. More than once, someone said, "There's warmth in your work. You don't see that anymore." Each word stitched confidence into her spine. One afternoon, Sophia stepped into a small downtown boutique, not to shop for groceries or cleaning supplies, but for herself. For 30 years, she'd worn hand-me-downs from Eleanor or whatever Henry brought home on clearance. But now, she picked a pair of soft leather flats in chestnut brown. Nothing flashy, but sturdy, beautiful, hers. She handed over cash she'd earned with her own 2 hands. As she walked out of the shop, the sun caught her reflection in the glass door. For the first time in decades, she didn't look tired. She looked proud. Work at the care center evolved too. Sophia wasn't just helping now. She'd started organizing Tuesday quilting sessions. It quickly became the residents' favorite hour of the week. They laughed, joked, fought over fabric patterns, and insisted she show them the fancy edge stitching that had become her signature. One of the residents whispered to her, "You remind me of my daughter, only she's too busy to visit." Sophia squeezed her hand and stayed 5 minutes longer. At night, she'd sit by Grace's tiny dining table, marking down orders, humming softly, sipping red tea from her favorite mug. A gift from a resident who insisted she deserved a proper thank you. For years, Sophia believed her worth was tied to how perfectly she could serve others. But now she knew something better. Her kindness wasn't weakness. Her devotion wasn't naivety. Her hands didn't just feed people. They created something lasting. She was no longer the invisible woman behind the stove. She was a craftswoman, a caregiver, a business owner, a woman who had rebuilt her life from threads and courage. And this time, she was finally building it for herself. By the time the divorce was finalized, Sophia Matthews no longer needed validation. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt something stronger, settled. Her attorney, a sharp and compassionate woman named Kelsey Rivera, had handled everything with grace. Property divided fairly. A portion of the joint savings returned. Sophia had made no outrageous demands, just justice for the years she gave in silence. When Henry called afterward, his voice low and tight with resentment, Sophia barely reacted. "So that's it?" he snapped. 30 years and you just throw it away?" "No," she said, calm and firm. "I just finally stopped pretending it was whole." He hung up without another word. Mason visited a week later. He wasn't angry anymore, just quiet. He sat in the care center's break room, eyes scanning the hand-stitched pillow covers on the couch. "You made all these?" he asked. Sophia nodded. I thought you only cooked," she smiled. "That's what your father always said too. Didn't make it true?" He looked away. "The house is a mess. Nothing works. We tried to make dinner last week, burned everything." He chuckled, but it was hollow. "Guess we took you for granted." She didn't gloat, didn't say, "I told you so." Instead, she said softly, "You'll learn. Just don't wait 30 years to see the people who care for you." He left that day not with guilt, but with respect. Sophia's new apartment wasn't big, but it was hers. Morning light spilled across the kitchen table she'd refurbished herself. Curtains stitched from old clothes fluttered at the windows. The fridge always had something sweet. Jams she'd made with local berries or leftovers from Grace's stew. Her Etsy shop continued to grow. She received custom orders for wedding gifts, nursery decor, even a request for a memorial quilt made from someone's late mother's dresses. Each project filled her days with purpose. On Saturdays at the artisan market, returning customers asked about new fabrics, requested seasonal collections, even brought friends. Grace stood beside her, selling handmade soaps and candles, grinning like they were teenagers starting a garage band. Some evenings, Sophia would sit on her tiny balcony, tea in hand, and watch the neighborhood come alive. Families eating dinner on patios, kids riding bikes, music playing softly from open windows. The air smelled like rosemary and cinnamon, and peace. Sophia didn't crave romance, didn't dream of a dramatic twist. She had everything she needed. She had freedom. She had a name people now remembered. She had a life no longer lived in the shadows of others. And on one ordinary Tuesday, when a customer messaged her saying, "Your work reminds me of my grandmother's quilts," she stitched love into every thread. Sophia teared up. Because that's exactly what she had done. For years, no one noticed. Now the world saw her, and finally so did she. Too often, women are taught to bear more, speak less, and accept crumbs in exchange for devotion. But Sophia's transformation reveals that it's never too late to reclaim your worth. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not dramatic for demanding respect. The quiet work done in kitchens, behind closed doors, and in the invisible margins of life has value, and you don't need permission to rise. Sophia didn't escape her life. She rebuilt it, one stitch at a time. And in doing so, she didn't just survive, she bloomed. If you see yourself in Sophia, stuck, exhausted, invisible, know this: it's not too late. Start small. Reconnect with something that's yours, even if it's just 15 minutes of quiet. Write, paint, bake, South read. Call an old friend. Don't wait for someone to give you permission to live fully. If you feel undervalued, ask yourself, would I treat someone I love the way I'm being treated? There are women's support centers, legal aid groups, job retraining programs, and communities online that offer free help. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need one bold step. You are more than what others see, more than what they dismiss, more than what they use. Like Sophia, your second act could be the most powerful chapter yet. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share with your friends. Your support keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if today's story touched your heart, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, stay well, and see you in the next story.